I slid the envelope across the mahogany table, watching my stepdaughter's eyes follow it like a hawk tracking prey. What I didn't tell her was that inside wasn't the deed to my lake house. It was proof of what she'd been doing for the past 6 months. Let me back up. My name is Arthur, and I spent 37 years as a financial advisor in Chicago before retiring to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. When I married Patricia 8 years ago, her daughter Vanessa came as part of the package. She was 24 then, fresh out of college, struggling to find her footing. Patricia passed away 3 years ago after a battle with breast cancer, and I thought Vanessa and I had grown closer through that grief. I was wrong about a lot of things. The lake house was Patricia's dream. We bought it together in 2018, spent weekends fixing it up, making it ours. After she died, I couldn't bring myself to sell it. Every corner held a memory: Patricia painting the kitchen cabinets that awful shade of yellow she loved, Patricia planting roses by the dock, Patricia laughing as we tried to assemble that impossible Swedish furniture. The house was all I had left of her. Vanessa started visiting more often after her mother died. At first, I was grateful. She'd drive up from Milwaukee on weekends, help with yard work, cook dinner. We'd sit on the deck watching the sunset, sharing stories about Patricia. I thought she was honoring her mother's memory. I thought she cared about me. The first hint came last November. I was recovering from a minor surgical procedure, nothing serious, just a routine hernia repair, but it left me groggy and dependent on others for a few weeks. Vanessa insisted on staying with me, taking time off work to help. I appreciated it. What I didn't appreciate was finding her in my study at 2 in the morning, my laptop open, my financial documents spread across the desk. "I was just looking for the insurance papers," she said, too quickly, "in case something happened during your recovery." I wanted to believe her. God, how I wanted to believe her. Then came December. Vanessa started bringing up the lake house in every conversation. How much work it needed, how expensive the upkeep must be, how I was getting older and might not be able to manage it alone. Had I thought about selling? About moving somewhere with less maintenance? Somewhere closer to family? "What family?" I asked one evening. "You live an hour away, Vanessa. You visit once a month if I'm lucky." She smiled, that patient smile people use when they think you're being difficult. "I'm just worried about you, Arthur. Mom would want me to look out for you." That line, she used it constantly. Mom would want, as if Patricia's wishes were a weapon Vanessa could wield whenever she needed to manipulate me. In January, my neighbor Frank mentioned something odd. He'd seen a real estate agent taking photos of my house while I was in town getting groceries. When he asked what they were doing, they said the owner had requested a market evaluation. I hadn't requested anything. I called the agency. Sure enough, someone claiming to be me had contacted them about potentially listing the property. The call had come from a Milwaukee area code, the same code as Vanessa's cell phone. That's when the pieces started falling into place. The middle of the night computer access, the constant suggestions about selling, the real estate agent. I started paying closer attention. I set up a simple security camera in my study, the kind you can monitor from your phone. Just a small thing, barely noticeable on the bookshelf. Within a week, I had what I needed. Vanessa, during one of her helpful visits, went straight to my filing cabinet the moment I left for my morning walk. She photographed documents, the house deed, my will, bank statements, everything. She was building a case, though for what, I couldn't yet imagine. I hired a private investigator. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know the full scope of what was happening. What he discovered made my stomach turn. Vanessa had been meeting regularly with an elder law attorney in Milwaukee. She was exploring options for having me declared mentally incompetent. She'd been documenting every time I forgot where I put my keys, every appointment I missed, every normal sign of aging. She was building a file to prove I couldn't manage my own affairs. But why? I still provided for her. I'd paid off her student loans after her mother died. I gave her money whenever she asked. What more could she possibly want? The investigator found that too. Vanessa was drowning in debt, not student loans, but gambling debts. Online poker, sports betting, even trips to the casino in Milwaukee. She owed nearly $80,000 to some very unpleasant people. People who were starting to make threats. The lake house was worth $1.2 million. The Milwaukee real estate market was hot, and waterfront property in Lake Geneva was in high demand. In Vanessa's desperate mind, I was the only thing standing between her and financial salvation. She wasn't planning to kill me. That would be too obvious, too investigated. No, her plan was subtler and somehow more cruel. Get me declared incompetent, become my legal guardian, sell the house for my own good to pay for my care in a facility, pocket the difference after paying off her debts. I'd be alive but warehoused somewhere, probably confused about why my own stepdaughter had abandoned me, while she lived freely on money from the home her mother and I had built together. I won't lie when I realized the full extent of her betrayal. I wanted to call the police immediately, tell her to never contact me again, cut her out of everything. But I'm not a rash man. 37 years in financial planning teaches you patience. It teaches you to plan several moves ahead. So I planned. I called my attorney, David Morrison, someone I'd known for 20 years. I explained everything. We spent a week crafting a new estate plan, a new will, and most importantly, a comprehensive mental competency evaluation from 2 independent physicians and a psychiatrist. I was sharp as a tack, they confirmed, and all 3 doctors documented it thoroughly. That would make it nearly impossible for Vanessa to succeed with her incompetency claim. Then I set the trap. I called Vanessa in mid-February. I've been thinking about what you said, I told her, about the house being too much work. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time to consider my options. I could practically hear her heart rate spike over the phone. Really? Arthur, I think that's so wise. I'm so glad you're being realistic about this. I'd like to discuss it properly, I continued. Why don't you come up this Saturday? I'll make dinner. We can talk about the future. She agreed immediately. Too immediately. Saturday arrived cold and clear. I prepared Patricia's favorite meal, herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables and wild rice. I even opened a bottle of the good wine, a Pinot Noir we'd been saving for a special occasion. Patricia would have appreciated the irony. Vanessa arrived at 6, carrying a leather folder. She'd come prepared. Something smells amazing, she said, kissing my cheek. The same cheek she was planning to kiss goodbye before signing me away to a nursing home. We made small talk over dinner. She asked about my health, my routines, whether I was remembering to take my medications. Each question was a probe, I realized, gathering more ammunition for her incompetency case. After dinner, we moved to the living room. The fire crackled in the stone fireplace. Patricia and I had built ourselves one summer, hauling rocks from the beach, laughing at our amateur masonry skills. Vanessa set her leather folder on the coffee table between us. I'm so glad we're having this conversation, Arthur, she began. I've been really worried about you out here alone. This house is wonderful, but it's a lot for one person. It is, I agreed. Your mother and I always imagined we'd grow old here together. I never planned to manage it alone. Her face softened with what might have been genuine sympathy, or might have been guilt. I know how much this place means to you, but Mom wouldn't want you struggling. She'd want you somewhere safe, somewhere you could enjoy your retirement without all this stress. You're right, I said. That's why I've made some decisions. Her eyes lit up. That's wonderful, Arthur. I actually brought some information. She reached for her folder about some really excellent assisted living communities. They have everything: activities, medical care on site, social opportunities. You wouldn't have to worry about house maintenance anymore. I let her talk. She pulled out glossy brochures showing smiling elderly people playing cards, doing watercolor painting, being gently managed like expensive pets. She'd researched them thoroughly. I had to give her that. She'd found places that would accept someone with my assets, places that would drain my bank account at $3,000 to $5,000 per month until the insurance ran out. And then what? But that wouldn't matter to Vanessa. She'd have her Lakehouse money by then. These look lovely, I said when she finished. Very thorough research. I just want what's best for you. That line again. Mom would want what's best for you. As if packaging me away was an act of love. I appreciate that, Vanessa. I really do. That's why I wanted to have this conversation face to face. I stood up and walked to Patricia's antique secretary desk in the corner. From the bottom drawer, I pulled out my own folder, much thicker than hers. What's that? She asked. Information, I said, sitting back down. About decisions I've made. I opened the folder and pulled out the first document. This is a comprehensive mental competency evaluation from Dr. Sarah Chen, a psychiatrist at Northwestern. She examined me 2 weeks ago. Her conclusion: I'm of completely sound mind, sharp cognitive function, excellent memory, no signs of dementia or diminished capacity. Vanessa's face went pale. I pulled out another document. This is a similar evaluation from Dr. Robert Martinez and Dr. Jennifer Kim, 3 independent physicians, all confirming the same thing. I'm not incompetent, Vanessa. I'm not declining. I'm fine. Arthur, I never said. Let me finish. My voice was harder now. This next document is a record of your meetings with Attorney Harold Stevens in Milwaukee. 4 meetings over the past 2 months, specifically discussing guardianship proceedings and how to have a family member declared mentally incompetent. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. These, I continued, pulling out printed photos, are screenshots from my security camera, showing you accessing my private files, photographing my financial documents, going through my personal papers. Without my knowledge or permission, you were spying on me? Her shock turned to indignation, that defensive anger people show when they're caught. I was protecting myself, I corrected. In this, I pulled out the investigator's report. This explains why. Your gambling debts, $83,000 owed to some very dangerous people. People who've been calling you, threatening you, demanding payment. The color drained completely from her face. How did I find out that my stepdaughter was planning to have me declared incompetent, sell my house out from under me, and warehouse me in a facility so she could pay off her gambling debts? I leaned forward. Vanessa, I spent nearly 4 decades helping people manage their finances, spotting fraud, identifying risks. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? She sat frozen, the glossy brochures spilling from her folder onto the floor. I loved your mother more than I can express, I said, my voice quieter now but no less firm. When she died, I promised myself I'd honor her memory by being there for you. I paid off your student loans $60,000. I gave you money whenever you asked. I tried to be a father to you because Patricia would have wanted that. Arthur, I'm sorry. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. I got in over my head and I panicked. And I thought, you thought I was expendable, I finished. You thought that house out there, the one your mother and I built together, was just an asset to liquidate. You thought I wouldn't notice or wouldn't care that you were planning to steal my autonomy, my home, my dignity. I never meant to hurt you, she whispered, but you did. You were willing to have me declared mentally incompetent. Do you understand what that means, Vanessa? It would have destroyed my reputation, my standing in the community, my ability to manage my own life. You were willing to put me in a facility, take away the home I shared with your mother, all to cover your gambling debts. I pulled out the final documents. This is my new will. You're not in it. This is a restraining order. You're not to contact me or come within 500 feet of this property. And this is a report I'm filing with Adult Protective Services documenting your attempted exploitation of a vulnerable adult. You can't, Arthur, please. I can, and I have. Your mother would be devastated by what you've become. The daughter she raised, the woman she loved, would never have done something like this. Vanessa was crying openly now, mascara running down her cheeks. What am I supposed to do? They're going to kill me if I don't pay them. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered the security footage of her photographing my medical records, building her case to have me declared incompetent, and the sympathy hardened into resolve. That's not my problem anymore, Vanessa. You made your choices. You chose gambling over family. You chose deception over honesty. You chose to view me as an obstacle rather than someone who cared about you. Those were your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences. But Mom, don't. My voice was sharp. Don't invoke your mother. Patricia would have expected you to be better than this. She would have expected you to ask for help, not to betray the people who love you. I stood up, gathering my documents back into the folder. I've already changed the locks. Your key won't work. I want you to leave now, and I don't want you to come back. She didn't move, just sat there crying. Her carefully planned presentation scattered around her feet. Vanessa, leave. She finally stood, unsteady, leaving her leather folder and brochures behind. At the door, she turned back one last time. I really am sorry, Arthur. I know you won't believe me, but I am. If you were truly sorry, I said, you would have come to me 6 months ago and asked for help with your debt. That's what family does. Instead, you saw me as something to exploit. That tells me everything I need to know about your sorrow. She left without another word. I watched from the window as her car pulled away, taillights disappearing down the long driveway. Then I locked the door, the new lock she'd never have a key for, and poured myself another glass of wine. I sat on the deck despite the February cold, wrapped in Patricia's favorite blanket, looking out at the frozen lake. The moon reflected off the ice, the same view Patricia and I had watched countless times. I thought about calling someone David, my attorney, or Frank next door, but I wanted to sit with this moment alone. I'd protected myself. I'd stopped Vanessa's plan. I'd saved my home, my autonomy, my dignity. So why did I feel so hollow? Because Vanessa wasn't wrong about one thing. I was alone here. Patricia was gone. The stepdaughter I'd tried to love had betrayed me. The house, for all its memories and beauty, echoed with absence. But I'd be damned if I let someone take it from me. The following weeks were difficult. Vanessa tried calling. I didn't answer. She sent emails, long rambling apologies and explanations. I deleted them unread. She even showed up once, but the restraining order meant she couldn't come onto the property. She stood at the end of the driveway, crying, until Frank called the sheriff and they escorted her away. I filed the report with Adult Protective Services as promised. They opened an investigation into Vanessa's attempted exploitation. The attorney she'd been meeting with, Harold Stevens, was also investigated for potentially conspiring in elder abuse. Last I heard, he was facing an ethics complaint with the state bar. As for Vanessa's gambling debts, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she'd borrowed money from other relatives, spinning stories about medical emergencies and car troubles. When those ran out, she declared bankruptcy. The bankruptcy proceedings revealed the full extent of her financial disaster. The gambling debts were just the start. She'd maxed out credit cards, taken out predatory loans, owed back taxes. The life she'd presented was a complete fiction, held together with desperation and deception. Part of me, a small, vindictive part, felt satisfaction knowing her plan had failed so spectacularly. The larger part just felt sad. Sad for Patricia, who would have been heartbroken. Sad for the relationship Vanessa and I might have had if she'd made different choices. Sad for the daughter who could have asked for help but instead chose betrayal. Spring came to Lake Geneva, and with it, a kind of peace. I hired a local teenager to help with the yard work. I joined a book club in town, met people, made new friends. Frank and his wife started having me over for dinner once a week. The house felt less empty, though Patricia's absence was still a daily ache. In May, I got a letter from Vanessa. Not an email, an actual handwritten letter, forwarded through her attorney to comply with the restraining order. She'd completed a gambling addiction treatment program. She was attending support group meetings. She'd moved back in with her aunt in Kenosha, working 2 jobs to pay off her remaining debts. She didn't ask for forgiveness, didn't ask to see me. She just wanted me to know she was trying to do better. I read it 3 times, standing on the deck in the warm spring sunshine. Then I tucked it into Patricia's secretary desk, in the same drawer where I'd kept the evidence of Vanessa's betrayal. I didn't write back. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday enough time will pass that I can separate the Vanessa who was Patricia's daughter from the Vanessa who tried to steal my life. But not yet. The wounds were still too fresh, the betrayal too deep. People ask me sometimes if I'm lonely out here by the lake. I tell them no, which is mostly true. I have my routines, my friends, my memories of Patricia. I have this house we built together, this dream we shared. I protected it, and in protecting it, I protected myself. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Some betrayals cut too deep for forgiveness to reach. That's not bitterness, it's wisdom earned through pain. I don't hate Vanessa. I hope she gets her life together, overcomes her addiction, finds some kind of peace. But I hope it far away from me. I sit on this deck most evenings now as the weather warms, watching the sun set over Lake Geneva. Sometimes I talk to Patricia, tell her about my day, ask her what she'd think about all this. I like to imagine she's proud of me for standing up for myself, for not letting our dream home become another casualty of someone else's poor choices. The lake house is quiet in the evenings, just the sound of water lapping at the dock, the occasional call of a loon, the rustle of wind through the pines we planted together. It's peaceful. It's mine. And after everything, that peace is worth protecting. I learned something through all of this, something I wish I'd never had to learn. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, and family doesn't guarantee love. You can raise someone, provide for them, care about them deeply, and still mean nothing to them beyond what they can extract from you. It's a hard lesson, but it's an important one. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. At 72 years old, I outmaneuvered someone half my age who thought I was a confused old man she could manipulate. I protected myself, my home, and Patricia's memory. That takes something not just intelligence, but resolve. The will to fight when someone you love tries to steal everything from you. So yes, I sit here alone on this deck most evenings. But I sit here in my own home, with my dignity intact, my autonomy preserved, my life still my own. And that, after everything Vanessa tried to take from me, feels like victory. The envelope I slid across the table that February evening wasn't the deed to the Lakehouse. It was proof that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. But it was also proof that we don't have to accept that hurt. We can fight back. We can protect what matters. And we can survive betrayal, even when it comes from someone who should have loved us. Patricia would have understood. She always said I was too trusting, too willing to see the best in people. Maybe she was right, but she also taught me that love without boundaries is just permission to be hurt. I wish I'd remembered that sooner with Vanessa, but I remember it now. The lake is still tonight, reflecting stars in its dark water. Tomorrow I'll work in the garden, plant those tomatoes Patricia always loved, maybe call Frank about going fishing. Life goes on, even after betrayal. Maybe especially after betrayal. And the lake house, this beautiful dream Patricia and I built together, stands solid on its foundation. Just like me. Still here, still strong, still mine.